Love it. That's amazing.
Victoria, so nice to be here with you today. Welcome to the Rooted Conversations podcast.
Yeah.
I I wanted to reach out. You're here in the Raleigh area with me, and as I've gotten more into the nervous system, trauma, capacity building side of things, your name keeps coming up, and over the years we've connected and done deep dives on sharing and helping and supporting each other. And like we were saying before we logged on, we should have recorded those a long time ago. So I'm excited to be here with you today. And the way I remember meeting you was I went to a networking event at a chiropractic event, and we're like going around the room doing the hey, my name is, and this is what I do. And you took over, and I'm sitting here and like everybody else is really boring to me. I'm like, blah, 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 blah. But I loved the things you were saying because I think we were both like biohacking, really into nutrition, really into like, what would you call that? Optimization.
Oh, yeah.
And we would get together periodically and like share information.
Yeah.
But you were way into the energy stuff way before me. And I remember doing a session with you, and I was like, what the fuck is going on with all this with all this woo-woo stuff? And come full circle, damn it, that's what works.
It's right.
Yeah.
I love you. Yeah, I will tell you, my brother, right, from another mother. It's like, even though we haven't talked for a while, it's like, I know I could just pick up the phone anytime and be like, "What's up, bro? Like, let's put it down."
Yeah, man.
Let's see what's going on.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to dive into it. I want to start with like, what got you into all this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, it's always about, for me and for people like you as well. And what I find, because obviously I tend to work with a lot of people who are in that spiritual realm, and a lot of spiritual newbies as well, right? Like, so I have found through my soul purpose and through reconnecting recently with my galactic team, that, a big part of my what I do for people is a fire starter. So, what they told me was that just when people are just in my energy, they literally get activated. They literally get activated. So even though I might have been running your bars that day, right? Access consciousness bars, I literally was activating your divine genome in your DNA. And I didn't know that at the time, but now I know that it's a big part of what I do. And, people reach out to me from years and years and years, 10, 15, 20 years ago, where they say, I don't know if you remember me, but, I took a yoga class with you. I took a workshop with you, and you changed my life. And then I was like, wow. And then that kept happening over and over again. And so, although I've worked with, I work with clients, sometimes in the past, I've worked with clients long-term, 6 months or a year. But, some of the most powerful stuff has been that touch, someone in the line at a grocery store, right? Like a waiter or a waitress in a restaurant, where I give them my card, or I, look them right in the eyes and just say, what do you want to do? What do you want to create? And remember that you have the power within you to do that, And so it's like that, right? Like, so, there's just so much, there's knowledge, and knowledge is power, as we all know. And then there's energy, and then there's frequency. Right. And then it's just goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, as deep as you want to go. Like, you're a deep guy. I'm a deep gal, right? Not everybody's deep, and that's okay. We can still love them.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like, I love the term fire starter. It sounds like a bit of a red pill kind of thing. And it's also like this waking up. Like, tell me what activating your genome means.
Well, so, if you know Greg Braden, or, Dr. Joe Dispenza, right? All the cool people that have written a ton of books and all that. And, we talk about our DNA and how intricate it is, right? Like the DNA. And that we talk about things like, our brain And the fact that we like use like what, 3%, they say the capacity of our brain, we use like 3 to 5% of it or something, but we're finding more and more, and then it goes deeper and deeper. And so what if indeed our genes, our DNA held all of the magic of the book of life and the book of death, the Akashic records, right? Which is, for those of us, anybody watching who doesn't know what that is, that's basically like, the cloud of your lifetimes of experience. So if indeed you do believe in reincarnation, and if you don't, feel free to read the book, Dr. Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters. There's lots of, inundated proof that indeed there is past lives. And it's actually not even a past life. It's actually what we call a parallel life, because all of these lifetimes are actually happening simultaneously, which is why we can remember, right? Like that's the role that I'm in. I teach souls, people, women, how to remember who they are, right? I know that sounds like a really big statement, but remembrance comes from, again, from all of the soul. If indeed your soul is a living, breathing, energetic entity that can neither be destroyed or created, when we take that last breath, right? Like it's going to happen because we're human, unless you're a vampire, right? When we take that last breath, your soul leaves, your oversoul leaves your body. And then where does it go? So where does it go? Again, we can have all kinds of discussions, and, I'm never trying to pull anybody over onto my side. I'm going to attract the people that already are in that frequency or that resonance of truly believing in all of that. So if these, what'd you say?
I said, like, in the process of that, like you catch somebody that's like me, I'm wanting to heal, I'm controlling through food and protocols and supplements. And so, hey, this dude is interested. He's going down the rabbit hole. Let me kind of move him over here a little bit. Is that kind of what?
Yes, yes, because the thing that's missing with people who are dealing with chronic illness, autoimmune, is they're not looking at the energetic component of the dis-ease in the body.
Explain that a little bit.
So Dr. Bradley Nelson, The Emotion Code. If you don't know who he is, you got to get that book,
Yeah.
Emotion Code, and the Body Code, which is next level stuff, right? Any time we look at any aspect in the Eastern medicine world, right, where we actually go to the root cause of the issue, we know no, it's not even believing, it's a knowing that every aspect of disease in the body starts with an emotional dysregulation.
Yes.
Right? You with me?
Yeah.
So this is the deal. Again, we've found that we can trap emotions. We can store emotions, experiences, and events literally in our body. Mm-hmm. Right? So it's been shown that every single experience that we've ever had, let's just talk about this lifetime, since the incarnation of your soul, since since you started to grow in your mother's belly, that we remember. Now, do you consciously remember? Of course not. Holy shit. Can you imagine what your day would be like if we were just consciously remembering every single event that we've ever had since before birth?
It'd be like the worst mushroom trip ever.
Right. Exactly. So what's happened is all of that is stored in our subconscious mind. So where the hell is that? Mitch, where's your subconscious mind, buddy?
It's running the show all the time, right?
But where is it? Where is it located? Exactly. Like, we say the things, right? Everybody knows, yeah, I know that. I know that. But where is it located? It's located in our body. It's stored in our body. Now, it could be the physical body. There's many different dimensional bodies, right? You've got the physical body, the emotional body, the etheric body, the mental body, the spiritual body, right? There's many bodies. So it could be here. It could be in your liver. It could be in your gallbladder. It could be in your throat. It could be in your left butt cheek.
Yeah, it's connected to your forehead somehow.
Do you get it? Right? Do you get it? So that's why, so that right hip problem that doesn't ever go away, even though you've worked with someone, like you or me, and, we're looking at all the things. We're like, well, the postural repatterning, I have a background in, I'm a yoga therapist, and, I've done a lot of different things. And so understanding the fascia, if people don't know what the fascia is, right, then that's everything, like that whole system. Like, I went to college a really long time ago, right? I have a master's in human physiology. And, we didn't learn a lot about fascia in those days. I had to train with Tom Myers, who is the man who brought fascia to the Western world, right? He wrote the book Anatomy Trains. So again, if people are listening and they want to know about the body and the fascia, and you don't have that book, that is the gold standard.
And that book is talking about the fascia and storing.
Well, no, it just talks about it. It's more on a physical level, but you've got to understand that as well, and understand that the fascia, everything's connected to everything. There's all different fascial planes. So you want to start with a basic understanding of what is fascia. And then you can start to move into the emotional holdings and how we store energy and emotions in our body. Right. So I do, as I have a toolbox, a big toolbox, right? So it's freaking huge. One of the tools that I use is something called emotion coding or emotion clearing. And so what we do is we go in and we use muscle testing, applied kinesiology, AKA, I'm pretty sure you'd use that in your practice. Maybe it's just going to supercharge your practice, right? It's just supercharging it, because what you're doing is you can either use, the person, but I do a lot of work with people virtually all over the world. So I can't be touching them. So I literally use a pendulum. I use a pendulum and I attach it I connect to I ask permission to say, can I connect to your higher self through the pendulum? And then you ask yes or no questions, right? So it's that kind of thing. And then we're like looking at all the systems and all the bodies. And we say, this issue that you have, this chronic, whatever it is, whether it be leaky gut, right? Chronic fatigue, Hashimoto's, or chronic lower back pain. It doesn't really matter. But if you've done all the things and it's still not healing, now for me, I combine them all at once. So when I work with a client, I'm pulling in, we're looking at the movement piece, we're looking at the supplement piece, we're looking at the nutrition, and at the same time, I'm using this whole process and asking, what do we need so that we can get to that end point, which ultimately is what, Mitch? What's the end point that all of our clients want?
I don't know. I didn't know if there was an end point. I don't know. Peace.
Well, why do they come to you? Yeah.
Wholeness.
Yeah. I mean, energy, right? Like emotional freedom, physical freedom, being able to walk, play with their grandkids, right? It's all different. It all depends. Each person's goal, quote unquote, is certainly different. But, why do they come to you? Chronic pain, right? Usually chronic pain, inflammation, like all the things, inflammation,
anxiety,
yeah, all of it. But ultimately, again, if we're not looking at the piece, that piece of the connection to the energy body and the emotional body, and then even inherited and trapped emotions from your parents and your grandparents and your great grandparents. So often the things that will come up will be, we do the muscle testing. You don't have to guess. That's the great thing. To ask and you say, is this trapped emotion? Is this chronic condition connected to it? Does it have a genetic component? Does it, you see?
Yeah.
So you could get it from your great grandmother or your great great grandmother or your grandfather. All of that stuff can be passed down. We know that about genes. So why not anything?
So let me kind of go back and summarize some of this stuff. So I was thinking of Bruce Lipton, and some of this is like my understanding and weaving with you. So like Bruce Lipton says, like DNA is a blueprint. We come here, um, and we express based on our environment, our perception of the environment. Let's say less optimal. I don't know how to say it. I don't want to say bad genes, but the ones we don't want to turn on from stress, and the ones we do want to turn on, maybe
Right.
in the opposite of stress. And so people are coming into this world as a new body, being a soul that's lived many, many lives, unaware of those past lives, though I have heard some people come in with a remembering of some of the past stuff. And what you're doing is you're going in and you're saying, oh, let me turn this on, let me ignite this. This system is connected to this emotion that didn't get expressed and it's stored in my body. So it sounds like you're also saying that our past and our emotions that are suppressed, our things that were too scary and overwhelming that we couldn't fight, flight, freeze from, we freeze, we shut down. That energy goes into our body, and it's almost like this baggage that we're carrying around,
Yeah.
and you're able to kind of help direct people. Okay, so this is showing up in your liver, and this is showing up in your bad hip, and this is showing up in your gut, and it's really just this system that's holding all this tension from generations and generations and generations, not to mention this lifestyle, this lifetime. And so the work is to go in and kind of guide people on that journey. And are you removing these things? Are we building capacity around it? Is it awareness? Like,
Yeah, it's great. I mean, great. So I'm holding the space, I'm facilitating the session, right? So I don't ever want to claim to be, the guru, right? I'm not really doing anything. I'm just, I'm bringing the awareness to the situation,
mhm,
and through whatever I'm doing, because emotion coding is just one thing that I do.
mhm,
So it really depends, it just depends on the situation. I'm working with a woman, and, she signed up for a 3-month intensive with me. So we meet weekly, and so it's always different,
yeah,
and then she gets the journey work in between our sessions. And it's the client that does all the work. I mean,
yes.
I know, that. I know.
If you're not doing that, if you come in with an agenda and you're trying to direct and control this person's journey, you've already done them a disservice. You've already taken their power away. Is that
That's
correct?
right. Yes, and that's a huge thing of, if we want to get real big, I really activate, my soul purpose, which I've known for I had a really huge spiritual awakening during COVID. And, I've always been spiritual. I mean, it started when I was younger. I mean, I started getting into the angels and the fairies when I was a teenager, so I was, into that stuff, reading all the books and, getting into crystals. I became a Reiki master teacher in my early 20s. So I was following the road, but I still was at the same time dealing with a lot of addiction and healing myself. Right.
Mhm.
So my dad was an alcoholic. My mom was emotionally unavailable. I was the oldest of 3 girls, and, my parents got divorced when I was 6. And so, like so many people, and especially, healers and light workers, I had a lot of challenges in my childhood, and I didn't feel safe often. So that, that comes into the not feeling safe in my body and not being able to regulate my own nervous system. Yeah. So I didn't know. And obviously, since then, I've learned a whole bunch of stuff all about the vagus nerve and, all that technical stuff. And I'm a science nerd, so I love all that. However, why typically talk therapy doesn't help for people. A lot of my clients do come to me with chronic anxiety and depression and mental health issues. Is the body is the vessel, and the body, we've got to, we've got to get the body and the mind need to collaborate with each other,
Mhm.
and so you can't heal, I didn't make up this quote, but the quote that says that you can't heal the problem with the same thought pattern that you created it with. Right. So that's why PTSD trauma, Dr. Gabor Mate, I'm sure you've read a bunch of his books, all of that stuff. The healing is through embodiment. It's through, and, I've been a yoga teacher for 20 years. So, a trauma informed yoga teacher, and dance, I teach dance, I teach Qigong, all these things. And so it's really that gentle reconnection of letting your body know that it's safe.
Yes.
Through the practices, right? There's lots of different practices that people do that with. I mean, EMDR is about the only one I've heard about that doesn't require the body. It's the rapid eye movement thing, and I've heard good things about it. I haven't done it. Didn't work for me, whatever. But mostly it's like that gentle reconnection and a lot of inner child healing. That's the thing. Nobody wants to hear that, right? Nobody's like, what? My inner child, wah, wah. It's like we've got to open Pandora's box in a very safe, loving way, and then unpack our stuff, right? Like it's got to happen.
Yeah, it's like what I'm hearing is and I have the same exact experience of and I didn't know this until just a year or so ago, but I never felt safe in my childhood, and that's why I got to be a big, strong dude, and I could, beat up guys on the football field so that I could feel safe, because I didn't feel that. And so what I've learned, and tell me what you think, it's always safety first. And yes, we have to build safety before we can go in and start engaging with some of these intensities that were too much, that required us to shut down and withdraw, right? And so I think one of the first steps is meeting that inner child that is absolutely freaking terrified. And we have to do that very, very slowly. And I think from what I've experienced, I didn't want to do it either at first. And that shows how much self-hatred or lack of self-love how much work we have to do. I remember putting a picture of myself on my phone, and I couldn't do it. I had to get it off, and that was a really good indication. But when we can meet that child with compassion,
that's right,
with what we actually needed when we were a kid, we soften that armor, and we get underneath those protector types that are protecting the younger child. And so now that's, hey, it's okay. I'm here with you. I'm not going anywhere, doing a little bit at a time. And slowly and surely that armoring starts to soften, that freeze can let up. And now we can start to get in there and see what's actually going on.
Yeah, and nobody wants to hear that. Like I do. I mean, if you follow me on socials, I'll talk about inner child stuff. They always say in the marketing world, you want to kind of bring them in, give them you kind of want to market to what they want, but then I know what they need, and so I'm never advertising, come do inner child work with me. Nobody gives a shit about that, right? Nobody cares. However, I have never had a client that I didn't do inner child work with. It has to happen. And I'm still doing, like, I recently was going through some stuff. We all do, right, Mitch? We have our days where, I'm not on the socials. Nobody's wondering that Victoria's, locked up, curled in a ball in her bed, just kind of being, I can't deal. And then I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? And I was like, oh yeah. When was the last time you had a conversation with little Vicky, And I was like, oh yeah. So I just got to take a look at, all the work I'm doing with my clients. And then every day ask yourself, what am I not doing that I'm asking of my clients to be, the invitation, the invitation to do that. And thank you for sharing, like, because especially for men, it's such a sweet, they're getting the shit kicked out of them in a lot of ways. And at the same time, it's really important that we tap into our, the divine masculine, the divine feminine energy within each of us, whatever gender you call yourself, it's the energy, the safety, it's the receiving versus the giving. It's the container versus the flow, whether that's inside of us or whether it's within partnership, because that's another thing I do. I do couples coaching and counseling. I do a lot of, different things, and detoxing for people, because so much of it is connected. It's all, people come in and they're like, oh, just tell me how to, to do a cleanse, give me a cleanse, a 30-day cleanse, and I'll be on my way. Sorry, my friend. It doesn't work that way, you know? Well, we all need cleansing. We all do. I mean, unfortunately, because of what's sprayed from the air, what the water we drink and the food we eat, even organic isn't even organic anymore. So everybody needs to cleanse, right? We all need to be detoxing on every level, right? And so heavy metals and parasites and all of the glyphosate, and you just can't get away from it. So I'm not going to sit here and fearmonger. I want to give someone a solution. We are, you and I, right, and many other really great holistic alchemists, as I call myself. I want to be the solution gal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and I think you are, and I love the approach you're taking, and I really appreciate the vulnerability of showing your wounds and being vulnerable and saying like, hey, I'm not perfect. I spent yesterday crawled up in bed, because I do that shit too. But it's like what we see because of social media is this perfection that is mirrored out. I'm gonna show the best parts of me and hide the wounded parts, and we're just gonna act like everything's perfect. And I think people that are on that journey, that sends a really negative message, because perfection is at the root of so much burnout and dysfunction and nervous system issues and trauma. And I just appreciate you sharing that. That's something like for me, I could recognize when we first met the vast amount of knowledge that you had, and I was like, damn, she's also going through some shit too. And that's just being real. I think that's what Wallpaper said whenever we were loading to get in. It's like, be you, and that's just.
Yeah.
People need to hear that over and over again.
That's right. That's right. And I always, I teach because I do work with conscious creators a lot as well, right? I have, all this time, I've had my own business coaches, and they, everyone always wants to try to put Victoria in a box. And I'm like, fuck that, because nobody puts me in a box.
Yeah.
And I'm too expansive, right? I'm too expansive. So I'm like, I just call in my soul clients every day. And so whether that means, I'm working with you in a relationship, or you're, healing your autoimmune, or I'm helping you to create a 6-figure business in the spiritual, conscious creator world. It doesn't matter to me, So, but ultimately, like you said, I'm teaching people how to be themselves. So many people, I can see them. One of my superpowers is I'm an oracle. So an oracle reads the soul, reads the Akashic record. So I can, I don't do it openly, or I'd be going crazy walking around supermarkets and doing things and just tapping into people's, book of life and book of death. But when I'm with a client and I'm working with them, I can literally see their past, present, and their future.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see their future, which is also happening simultaneously at the same time. Now, we have free will. So what are you choosing? Right? Are you gonna choose to because addiction is a big thing for me. I healed myself from an eating disorder. I've healed myself from a sex and love addiction. I've healed myself from, God, what were some of the other addictions? Shopping. Money is still a little bit of an issue for me. So, but there's lots of, I've heard it say that with addiction, it's often a game of whack-a-mole. So if you're in the frequency of addiction ever, you got to get to the root core of that, because you're going to, just like in AA, right? People go into AA, and what do? They transfer the alcohol into what? Cigarettes and coffee and donuts. And again, I'm generalizing, but I'm not, because that is what happens. It turns into something else. So, whatever, AA has helped a lot of people. It doesn't get to the core. It doesn't get to the root cause of the frequency of addiction. And in this day and age, the addiction is this. It's our phones. It's electronics. It's Netflix. So many people are overwhelmed because our bodies are pure, open. We're acoustical beings. And so we're being inundated with 3G and 4G and 5G, and now 6G is rolling out. So we're like all these different frequencies, just like you would on a radio station, right? Like, you turn on AM 44 and you're like, oh, you hear a song on the radio, whatever, if you even still listen to the radio. But It's the same thing. And so what they're doing is they're hitting us with all these frequencies from the towers and all of the things that are happening. And it's ever so wonder that there is an absolute epidemic of chronic mental illness. And I will tell you, a huge amount of that is from EMF exposure. People don't even realize that EMF exposure, go look it up, and you may do this work, but you look, I know you do, because you talk about EMF protection devices and all that. But if you look at the signs and symptoms of EMF exposure, it's often in line with things like COVID and things like that. Like you literally can have those symptoms. And so imagine that happening all the time. And now look at our animals. Look up the statistics on how many dogs and cats are on Prozac.
On Prozac, antidepressant?
Yes. Prozac for kitties and dogs.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not, again, I work with animals as well, and we haven't really talked about that, and that's where I get my greatest joy, but it's not right. Like when we were kids, dogs were running around and, all the dogs now, like so many dogs have reactivity issues. They got anger issues, and they've actually linked certain things like vaccines to things, like the rabies vaccine linked to anger and aggression in dogs. Yeah, it's crazy. So
the more I learn about this stuff, the more it blows my freaking mind. Like one of my mentor, her husband wrote a book about the multiverse, and it's like how we got here and all this reptiles and the cabal and how we're on a slave planet that's being mined for stress. And so yeah, let's load up. I see the body as or stress as a bucket, and it's like you got toxic food, you got EMF, and you got vaccines, and you've got the news, and let's separate, divide, stress them out.
Yeah,
I mean,
separation, and the Matrix. Everybody knows about the Matrix. So many of the movies that we see, those big blockbusters, are real. They're real.
Because they have to leave it out in the open, right? It has to be.
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. And the thing is, they're looshing. I mean, God, now we're getting into soil
First.
So looshing is it's like feeding off of the negative energy. Right. So, there's a lot of influencers on social media that have millions of followers, and all they do is fearmonger, like they're just, it's like parasites. And again, I'm all for good education and teaching people about, we all have parasites. Sure we do. Parasites feed off of heavy metals, blah, blah, and so I'm all about educating. But the whole thing is, if you're in that space of constantly being in fear or worry, or like, the world is going to shit in a handbag, then that's a negative energy. Remember, this, our thoughts, our words, our actions, our belief systems cultivate our complete reality. Now, I'm not talking about spiritually bypassing. I'm not talking about, you see, there's a big difference. There's this huge, this spectrum of, spiritually bypassing to fear mongering. And I sit somewhere in the middle because I'm a truth talker, and I'm not afraid to talk about the truth. I didn't get the COVID vaccine, and not over my dead body. And, I like those things. And during that time, as best I could speak about it in the most way that I wouldn't get thrown into Facebook jail every other week, people were private messaging me every week or sometimes every day and saying, I don't know what to do, and I was supporting so many people in that realm of like how to help people through that process, because, I'm lucky that my beloved is in the same, mindset as I am. So I wasn't alone, but there are a lot of people that woke up during COVID and they didn't have the support that they really needed, and anyways, it just gets into that space. But so let's circling back to all of it. What it comes down to is, are you sovereign? Are you sovereign in your temple? People use the word sovereign. They don't really know what it means, right? So what I do is I support people, mostly women, sometimes animals, and activating their sovereign divinity. And so what does that mean? That means that I trust me, not the coat, the white coats, not, there's nobody outside of me that knows better than I do for me,
Right.
not for everybody else. I'm not telling anybody else what to do. This is for me and my own inner knowing. And so what we do is we've got to delete, destroy, and uncreate all the bullshit lies, stories, like you said earlier, the belief systems that we bought as children, as little girls and little boys, because by the age of 7, we cultivate the majority of our belief systems.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard to get to and to recognize. And, it's like for me, I remember reading The Body Keeps the Score and getting to the childhood trauma part and being like, I can't even imagine reading that. My life was perfect. Boom.
Good job, brother. Good job, brother. Look
Yeah.
how far you've come. Look at that. So, I want to talk more about that, especially for any men who are on the call, because it's awesome. Because you were that, I don't know that you were ever that typical guy. Maybe you were before your accident, right? So I don't know, the macho man. But it's like now, getting to that place of getting in touch with your own inner, softness. And again, going back to the sovereignty piece, that's, I mean, I could talk about that all day long, because when you activate your sovereign divinity, you don't doubt yourself anymore.
So that is self-trust, which is safety, is what sovereignty sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, safety, and there's lots of pieces to it, because in order to activate your sovereign divinity, I truly believe that you do have to heal. You have to do some healing before you can just activate it. Well, I'm at the beat.
What waking up is waking up to your own sovereignty, your own purpose, or
yeah, I mean, I like it. I think it's part of that. Again, I can't claim to know what everybody else is doing out there. I can only claim to know about the conversations that I've personally had with lots of people and in different maybe groups on the socials, and you hear other people's experiences. But what I have heard was there's definitely a huge awakening during COVID.
I'm sitting here as you're literally just saying that. I'm thinking, you said, I was going through a spiritual awakening during COVID, and I was too. And I feel like I'm still. It's been like really, and everybody, it sounds so awesome. Spiritual awakening, dude. It sucks. It's getting your ass kicked. It's getting your everything that you thought was real getting ripped out from under you and getting punched in the nose. But also, it's the most amazing thing ever. You really get to wake up to who you are, but you're dragging yourself out of the mud.
You can't unsee it. You can't undo. It's like we could talk about the red pill and the blue pill. Honestly, I take the purple pill. Because it's like, you watch The Matrix, you watch all the shows, and then I go, fuck, that's not how I want to live. I want to live back in Lemuria, right? That's where I want to live. I want to live back, with my soul. And so, if we could go into like Dolores Cannon. I don't know if you know who she is, but that's someone you should take a look at, because you're moving into that direction, Mitch. And so that would be my invitation to check her out.
What were the steps is that?
So it's the awakening, and then shifting into what we call like the 5D, the fifth dimension, as we start to elevate and ascend. You hear about the word ascension. It's not that suddenly you're just going to go from your 3D body to your 5D body, but that is what's happening. And so through the crystalline process, if you know about the earth, like we know earth is a 3D, the model of the earth, but also that there's levels and there's portals in the earth, right? So a scientist or an archaeologist is going to go like, we drilled into the earth and this is what we found, right? Like it's rock and it's granite and it's smoldering and all these, but they didn't go into the portal of the earth. You see? And again,
what do you mean? Like, what would it be like? Like, what do you mean? Tell me about a portal. I've heard of portals.
You got to look at the dimensions. We're in 3D, but the unicorns are real. They're not in the 3D. They're in the 4D. So where is that? Where's the fourth dimension? Right? It's a portal.
Okay.
So even things like dragons, like, I'm a big dragon, I am a dragon. I mean, in parallel lives, I'm a dragon and I have a dragon family. And so people would be like, what are you talking about? But let me ask you this question. If every single animal for every country, right? It's an animal. Like, what's the country's animal for different places? Scotland, you know what their animal is? The dragon.
Hmm. That's why I think I'm Scottish Irish.
So why would a country, when again, and in Chinese astrology, again, you might not know off the top of your head, but you can look at this later. Look at the 13 animals. There's the goat and there's the snake and the dragon. Dragons are real. Like it's like people are like, what are you talking about? They're real. They're not mythological creatures. So where is all this being? I travel. Do you know about the astral plane?
I've heard that word.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. If any of this is of interest to you, that's who, Dolores Cannon talks about the ascension process. She's been around for a really long time. She's got a lot of different books. But those are the kinds of, Diana Cooper, right? Those are people that talk about the magic and the ascension and how, what's happening with the spiritual awakening. Because when you have a spiritual awakening, and like you said, I mean, you might have heard it as the dark night of the soul, right? There's yeah, it's not always unicorns and butterflies and dragons, right?
Yeah.
It can be some hard shit you got to take a look at. But it's the call. You heard the call, as I'm going to call you a light worker, right? So whatever you're doing, and you don't have to hang a shingle as a healer, as a nutrition coach, right? You don't have to be a quote unquote healer. Sometimes it's just people being. You've ever been around someone who's just you're in their energy, in their space, kind of like the Jesus energy, the Christ consciousness energy. Maybe like the Dalai Lama, or I mean, Mother Mary, who knows, like stuff like that kind of energy that you're like in their space, and it just feels so loving and it's so gentle and it's so healing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good ways. I could go on and on. I mean, there's so many layers. We've jumped timelines in our talk today and so many things. But, if anybody's watching us who has had that spiritual awakening, I mean, that's a big part of the work that I do is I support those people because they're kind of like, what the fuck? What do I do now? What do I do with all this information, especially if you don't have a support system?
Mm-hmm.
The sister, hood, the brotherhood, especially for guys. Like, where are guys going?
I mean,
That's
that's something that I'm thinking about and learning about now that I know it's a little bit of an adjustment, but I know you're thinking, well, I've got a group that we started, been on a journey, and it's here in Raleigh. And I'll be honest with you, it's hard to get people to show up and guys to show up and do this work. And I've just gotten into understanding what's the patriarchy and the matriarchy, and then there's the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and we are flooded with I don't know if you would call it toxic masculinity, but it's like this void energy that rules the planet, and that it suppresses the women, makes them more masculine. They're taking on all the man roles because the guys are just sitting around fucking off. And meanwhile, it's demasculating all the men, and we wonder why we show up with this force and control and this shutting down, and underneath this massive amount of insecurity and terror that we've never been taught how to touch into and to heal, and so we just suppress it and oppress women, it seems like.
Right. Yeah, that was beautifully said, and I got the chills as you were saying that. And it's so funny because I was just going to say I was getting a download for you to start a men's group, and there you go, you have it. And so you just got to pull energy for it. The people that pulling energy for the thing, whatever the thing is that you want to create, whether it be a group coaching program or something as really special as that. because we need more groups like that. We need more groups, especially for men.
What advice would you give me of pulling energy to attract men for this group then?
Well, I mean, I feel like I see some of your stuff on the social, but going to the networking groups and inviting the men, and personally, yeah, I mean, you gotta full-heartedly believe in.
Well, it's something you said earlier too. It's so hard. It's like we're gonna sell them on. I mean, dude, when I think of nervous system and healing work, it looks something like this online. You're doing this, yeah, you fucking yeah, done caffeine. And yeah, man, it's great that you're supporting your fascia and working with your lymphatic system and you know how to do qigong, but that ain't healing. And the real healing work is boring. And if it's not boring, it's stimulating. And we're so used to cold dunks and protocols. And so it's like, is that what you do? Is sell the sexy stuff and then get them in and go, all right, we're talking about our feelings.
I think so. I think, yeah, I've run a lot of women's groups. I've had sacred sisterhood and meditation, and a men's meditation group could be nice.
I mean, I heal with nothing but women. I've been with Irene Lyon. It's me, 40 girls, and 2 guys. And it's every group but men heal differently. And as I'm reading and understanding this divine masculine stuff, I'm really cueing into, oh, this is a little bit different for us. Now, I'm so thankful that I've gotten to work with the ladies because it makes me more ambiguous, not so structured and goal oriented, more like open to things. And I'm trying to, I mean, that's my next thing is how do I bring this to the fellas? Because I feel like that's the group that needs.
So you got to stay. So I don't know where you're at with it. First you got to start with your mission. Just like a business thing, right? And then you don't got to do anything, but this would be my invitation is you create a sacred temple, and you put it in there like an energetic sacred temple, right? So you're taking the thing that you want to grow, and you're literally giving birth to it, Mitch, And so you just take some time, just like any program. Are you charging for this, or is this like a free or donation thing?
We've done it. There was this is kind of funny. So it was me and do you know Ed? I'm blanking on his name right now. Sorry, Ed. Me, Ed, and Clint Webb started Mentoring Journey 2 or 3 years ago, and I remember they were like, "Hey, we want you to, we want you to be in this group," and I was like, "Good, I'll come help these poor bastards that have
That's right.
mental health issues," because I was like, "I'm going to teach them how to eat," because the mental health is nutritional deficiencies. That's where I was at. Like, I guess 4 years ago. So we started with we've got a good group of I'd say 10, maybe a little bit more here and there. And we started with just sharing, hey, how you feeling on a scale of 1 to 10? And it's opened up. I mean, it's amazing to see people's numbers, their average, go like this when they can just say how they're feeling. But now I'm at a point where I'm like, hey, I am sick of getting in here and talking about what number am I at. Let's do some fucking work. Let's
do it.
Let's engage with this in the tiniest way possible. It's a drop. Bloop. Let's give them I don't want this big cathartic. I don't think we need to be doing anger work. I'm just doing that after 3 or 4 years of this stuff. Tiny. I'm imagining it. So and we know with I see with psychedelics and breath work and all these cathartic things that cold plunges, right. That's what people want, and that's what they think is healing. But that's the Amazon Prime version of healing. That's the next day delivery. It's really just a shift. It's really just busy work. It's really just, can I get a mood enhancement type of thing? But what happens the next day when your system goes back into freeze?
Yeah. So it's a container that you hold, right? So, and the structure, which is the masculine energy, is the piece that, every time, I have a structure when I do my women's circles, right? There's a structure, but there's also room for lots of, growth. Typically it's an hour and a half, maybe it's 2 hours long. You come in, you say your incantation, what your mission is for the group. So you start out like that. And then, you could have a theme or not. It's up to you. You know, it could be a very specific theme, and it could be anger, right? It could be compassion. It could be relationship. So every month it's a different theme, or not, you know, but that's, you know, I often would do that. And then I put him through a movement practice.
So good.
Yeah,
So good. Like because you're a yoga trainer or something.
But it doesn't even have to be, you could just do a few qigong exercises. Like it doesn't, you could do waterfall, you know, inhale up, exhale down, inhale, like whatever. I can help you with any of that.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, obviously I have a lot of training in somatic movement therapy, but you don't have to. You could just do a few things, you know, a little open mouth exhale, make some sound, right? So then you do the movement practice, and then, you know, you talk a little bit, 10 minutes of a talk. You talk about the theme, and then you say, what's coming up for you now?
Yeah.
And then and each person shares. Now, it's really important that you set the guidelines of that, how they are talking. And they're not, because sometimes people start talking and go, you know, we and most people, and you got to bring it back to them. And so you set the guidelines as the guy, as the dude, and you say, you know, this is the invitation to, you know, and you set the guidelines.
Well, that's what happened. So that's so interesting that you say that, because we had 30 of us, right?
What? That's okay. That's a
It
lot.
got so big, and I didn't have boundaries. I didn't know what containment was. I thought, you know, this is the wild, wild west, and let's let it go where it's going to go. And it got crazy, and people were getting upset by things. Things were getting told outside the group. People were proud of themselves in an unhealthy way. There was a guy that said,
right. So you learn, and now it's time. It sounds like it is for you to create something else.
So that's what's happened. We've got a small group now. I worked with everybody to see, what are your complaints? What don't you like? I was also really sick and not able to show up in the way I wanted to, but now I'm here. And so we created like a list. They're really funny. We call it like the vampire rule and the fight club rule. And like all these things that are like, hey, it's the armchair quarterback rule. It's like, hey, unless you're a professional and you have experience in this topic, shut the fuck up and listen and hold space and hold the intention that this person has everything that they need to get better. Because we had a guy that came in that was a psychologist or whatever, and was diagnosing and prescribing medicine and telling people that, not prescribing, but suggesting medicine, and saying the only way that you can heal this is with this drug. And I left there. That was a big experience for me, because I left so triggered that I shut down. Everybody could tell. They got to me, they're like, Mitch, you hadn't said a word. And I'm like, pass. And I couldn't remember. It took a friend help me kind of walk through why I was so upset, because I didn't know how to tell what was going on at that time. But so we worked through a lot, and I feel like we're at this place where we have the foundation. We've got a good group of guys that is willing to be vulnerable and hold space and show up. And I think like what you've given me is like this, it's just, I like the structure idea. And I think this way of like embodied, like kind of like a somatic sharing thing. So instead of saying like, hey, I'm a 7, it's like, hey, I'm feeling this. It's like these different ways of sharing in a group that is more somatically based. That's not throwing these guys into the freaking deep end, because so much of what I learned is titration. It has to be so tiny. And that's what's hard for me too, because I'm learning to do that one-on-one. When it becomes a group and I got 6 or 7 nervous systems and different shit flying around the room, I'm an empath like you are. I'm having nothing to.
And I've been doing that. I've been holding space for 30 years in teacher trainings, and I'm a certified yoga teacher, thousands of yoga teachers and all the things. So, you're getting the experience, right? It's good. It's good. It's good stuff. And then the last thing is asking each person, what are they willing to commit to? Right? What's the thing that they know that they're not doing or could be doing or should be doing? It could be have the conversation with their partner. It could be just sit with themselves for 5 minutes every day. It's one thing. So that's your call to action, right? And at the end of everything. And then
that's so much better than giving homework for a group, because I'm like, should I do this book or do whatever? And it's like, man,
Yeah.
that's taking their power again. Like, let them have their
Right.
moment. I love
That's
that.
right. Look at you. Look at you.
Oh, dude, that was oh, you're gonna love this. So, Mine, she's who I mentored with this past year, and she's always talks about, meet the moment. And I was like, what do you mean? And so I've got something here on my wall that says, "Be you. Don't prepare. Don't think about it. Just fucking show." And I was being the health coach, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Mr. Biohacker." And I was working with this guy, and I got him from an interview that I did with Irene. So it was really nervous system work. And so I went to my first training with her. I came home. I'm like, I'm gonna meet the moment. And so I just came in. And I'm like, "What's up, dude?" And I didn't have a performance. I wasn't trying to control or have an agenda for him. And after like a week or two of that, he was like, "What the fuck are you doing differently? Because I hated you 2 weeks ago." He's like, "You showed up with all this energy," and he's like, "I have no energy, and you made me feel like shit. And now it really feels like you're meeting me in this flow."
Your authenticity, and you weren't trying to project anything or trying to be anything other than, that's a big part of the work that I do with my clients as well, is because we're once you become comfortable in who you are and what you know and what you can deliver, and the more present you can be in the moment, you can access your gold. That's where the gold is met. Like I saw you just take a deep breath there, right? And say that was a revelation. Yeah. Oh, you have no idea. I see with my eyes closed. It doesn't matter. That's the magic. And I wasn't always like this, but now it's like I can meet somebody in 5 minutes and see, their pain, their suffering, and also I can see their joy and what's in the way and how.
Dude, I can too. It's like I get what you mean. The more safe I feel and the more authentic I feel and less performing, the more my intuition goes crazy. And mine is, I wrote this down to ask you earlier. My intuition, I'm starting to kind of see images. I wouldn't say I full blown see things or please ghost, don't show up on my road. But I get like analogies, and they're usually very silly, and I cannot, because I'm a potty mouth and I love just talk shit, and I'll be like, I can't say that to them. I'll be like, say it, and I'm like, all right, well, here's what I'm getting. Here's an analogy, and they're like, oh my God. And it's the more I connect with me, the more I have access to that stuff. And I was going to ask you, I took a class on mediumship and I know there's different Claire sisters, clairvoyancy. So tell me what you see.
Sure. What do I see for what?
Like what type of clairvoyance do you have? Because I've heard you mention several.
Oh, what do I see? Well, we all have all of them, right? It's just that certain ones are a little louder than others. So clairvoyance is the seeing. And, I'll just stop there for a second. I mean, I'm also a trained clinical hypnotherapist, and, I don't really use that tool anymore. But when I was training for that, I don't know, 20 years ago, 25 years, it really helped me open up my third eye, right? So this is here, that's your sixth chakra, right? Ajna. And it's really the doorway to your Akashic records. And unfortunately, with all the toxins that we deal with and things like fluoride and glyphosate, your third eye, your pineal gland is actually a crystal. So it can get calcified from all the toxins, which is why people are just going along, all the followers, or the muggles, as I call them, the non-logical. Yeah. And again, I'm not judging truth. It's just truth. But they're just going along, and they're getting in line for their next booster and vaccine and all those things. And, those people are going to have a blocked third eye, right? So anyway, clairvoyance is seeing, and as over the years, and the more I go inward, whatever the hell you want to call it, meditation, but not like, there's lots of different types of meditations. So for me, I love mantra. I love guided. I love frequency. I work with tuning forks, and those things help to bring me to different dimensions.
Yeah.
And that's really opened up the scope. Like I can literally close my eyes and see visions. Like I can close my eyes and see visions. I can travel along dimensional tracks and go out and go on to the 11th dimension and the 12th and the 13th. But again, I wasn't always like this. It's taken time and I've learned how to do this, over time. And so, clairvoyance is the seeing, clairaudience is hearing, sentience is the feeling. You just feel it. And that's the empath, which I'm sure you have that. And then the clear sentience, that's the feeling. Claircognizance is the knowing. It's that knowing. And I have all of them. Audience, not so much sometimes. And then there's even other ones that aren't super common that we don't always talk about, like smelling and things like that.
Right.
And the knowing and the feeling have always been my superpowers for sure. And then that's the empaths, and where I typically attract highly empathic people, and I teach them how to turn their kryptonite right into their superpower, their empathy.
And it's like
people.
And what I would say to that too is to access. It's like my teacher in that said, "Hey, these are not gifts. They're just developed, and some people, like you said, some things are louder and more turned up than others. But the way to turn those up, from my understanding, and how we ascend, is we gotta heal the nervous system. We gotta heal the emotions in the body that are stored, so that now we can see, hear, feel.
Yes.
And until then,
And wait, I want to add in. Sorry to interrupt you. Not sorry. I also want to add in. You have to look at what you're ingesting physically, mentally, and emotionally. But I want to say that for not for you, but for anybody who happens to be still watching us at this late. But because so the foods that we're eating, the crap, right, that we're ingesting, alcohol, right? I could talk a long time about alcohol and how it's spirits and entities, and it opens you up to inviting entities into your body as well. So again, people, well, what's the checking out? That's the thing. Like, where are people checking out in their life? You know what I mean? Like, where are they not wanting to deal with the thing and numbing out and checking out? And that goes back to that frequency of addiction, because unless somebody's doing the work like we are actively, show me someone who doesn't have some form of an addiction. Just show me, like, really.
Yeah, because we don't like being uncomfortable, and some of these things are so unconscious and below the radar. It's like the more I heal, the more I wake up to things that are tight and pain, like fascia stuff. I've been working with a pelvic floor specialist. As I started to heal, a lot of guys that don't that have early developmental stuff, their core and their legs are weak as hell, and that like upper body strong. That's me, and I didn't realize that until now. And so as I'm doing Feldenkrais to help in a lot of craniosacral and
nice
all this other stuff to help that. But it's like, as these things start to heal and I learn how to be in my body again with strength and stability, all these other things wake up. They're like, hey, me next. Because like I was at the what's it called, osteopath this morning, and we're talking about how this pelvic floor stuff is gotten really tight. And most guys would experience that and never say anything because it's down there in the area that we don't talk about. But it's basically like, hey man, your hips are learning to rotate now, and you have to learn how to lengthen your diaphragms.
That's
those diaphragms get so closed down. And so now it's like, oh yeah, you're just learning how to move again. And so, here's the thing that I gotta say. Yes, that's what I'm learning. I'm like, oh, it's all my upper back hurt, my diaphragm, my chest hurt, and my hips were hurting. It's all connected to breathing. And if I'm holding in and stuck in fight or flight, of course I don't know how to breathe. It's like I couldn't buy breath if I wanted it. But as we bring more space and open these things up, well, stuff's going to start to come out. But I'll tell this for the guys that love the gym. When I learned how to breathe a little bit better, and this is like the last couple of weeks, when I learned how to breathe a little bit better into my diaphragm, specifically I was holding my pelvic floor like this all the time and lifting heavy weight like that. My weight went up like a newbie gain. A newbie gain is like, I just started lifting weights for the first time. Everybody can go up like 50 pounds, let's say. I went up 30, 40 pounds in some lifts overnight after being lifting for a year at least. Prior to that, I wasn't. But I went up that much weight because I could have, I guess the analogy, I could breathe into my lower center. It's like creating that stability. And I can tell if I rock back and forth and my breath is out, then I'm shaky. I'm all over the place. But as soon as I and build that pressure in the lower body, now, holy crap, the strength, I was throwing weight.
Yeah, I mean, shifting gears, I started in the fitness industry, right? So I started at 15 years old as a fitness instructor. And at 17, I was teaching group fitness classes. And at 23, I was certifying personal trainers and traveling all over the world. So I was in it deep, high level fitness for 20 years. And I have a master's in human physiology. And then I got into yoga. And then I got into Pilates, right? So yoga and Pilates, taking that and merging and fusing that with fitness changed my whole fitness world, which is a little bit of what I think what you're talking about. So guys, most people don't understand what the core.
We just get in there and compete and we just do it instead of we just want to get through it. And that's so much force. But when you slow down, you explore, you get real curious, oh, when I move like this, does that feel good?
Yeah.
And
that's presence. Mitch, that's presence as well. Like I've talked to people, some of my clients, they work out and I'm like, tell me about your workouts. Do you bring presence into the workout? And they don't even know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing.
And then how do you get hurt like that? You're injured.
You never get hurt. And that's why I say in yoga, people, it's like you come in and I can tell people who are not present.
Yep.
And that's why they're there, for one reason or another. They're not in their bodies. You can see that. You can tell people who are not aware of their body in time and space. That's a kinesthetic awareness. Well, I am.
Oh yeah, I know. But a percentage of people, that's what
right?
How many people do you see that are embodied?
Well, the people who are doing the work.
Yeah.
That right? That's it. Or the people, I see people a lot who come to yoga who are in their bodies, and some people who are coming to my yoga class for years and they're still not in their body because there's only so much I can do as a teacher. I don't even walking around and giving suggestions and support.
So let's kind of start there. Let's start wrapping this thing up and moving towards how you help people. So look. No, because I know it's going to take us a while to get there. So say somebody's new, you're teaching a yoga class, and I come in and I'll just give you an example of how I used to be. I'd be high as shit on cannabis. I'm not in my body. I'm competing with the person beside me. Every time there's hey, if you want to go a little bit further, I'm listening in and I'm pulling tendons and hurting myself. And my hamstrings are super tight after class. And you've noticed this for 2 years. Where do you start?
Well, yoga is just something I do. I love yoga. I teach yoga. It's not, I'm not looking to do private yoga with anybody. That's, done there, been there, done that. So it's just sort of a fun thing that I do. I give back to the community by teaching, right? Because so people can be in my space and really benefit from whatever the heck, why they keep coming back, right? For whatever reason, whether it be the banter or my giggle or any, so, really how, if people know, almost every single client that I've ever had has either been a referral or it's been someone that has seen me on either social or met me somewhere. And when they met me or saw me, they just knew that I was the person. Yes.
Yeah, about me too. Yeah.
I'm a generator.
Yeah.
Yeah. You too.
So people just come to you.
Yeah. That's just the way it goes. I don't, and now I'm even being more particular. I'm very particular, about who I work with. And, all the things. So clearly it's got to be someone that's open-minded and they're spiritual and a little bit open-minded, right? And be in my, as we call it, my camp, right? In that mindset of my vastness of, being a multidimensional being and, and maybe you're a newbie or maybe you're not. For me, it's just will I enjoy working with the person?
Yes.
So right, it's like that kind of thing. I'm not here to be your accountability buddy. You're a big girl. You're a big four. I am not your accountability buddy. I am here to activate shit, and then you're going to do whatever you're going to do. Right? Like that's the way it goes. When the clients I work with,
60% them, 40% you.
whatever, yeah, or whatever. Oh, excuse me. I'm the guide, and I'm, the oracle and all those things. But at the same time, they have to do the work, and they have to show up, and they, sometimes my clients are in resistance, right? I mean, you know what that's like. But it's like, and I'm their greatest cheerleader and all of the things, right? So everything's on if anybody does want to check out, right? My website is victoriahaffer.com. You can see the name up there, and everything's there. All my sacred offerings, pricing, all of it. I don't hide anything. A lot of times people, you got to get on a call and do all these things. And I'm just like, you get what you get. Like I'm here to serve. I'm here to support. I'm here to really teach, mostly people and animals. I love working with animals. I do a lot of work with healing animals and people through animals, right? That would be a whole other podcast to talk about that. But, I do equine coaching and healing. And I do, if you've got an animal that's dealing with chronic health conditions, I do emotion coding for animals as well.
It's funny. I gotta say this. Well, I've got a rescue that he still kind of nips. He does not trust me in. He loves us to death, but man, it has been so wild as I heal. I'm about to cry. I get emotional. To watch him heal, and like he used to be so skittish and standoffish, and now he is fighting the other dog to get up on me and love up on me on the couch when he used to be just at my feet, And
we might need to do another podcast because there's so much in that, I mean, I could write a book, right, on how our animals mirror us and how we have soul contracts with our animals. And so often when it's usually women that come to me with their animals, it's because the animal brought them to me. So often I will work with somebody with their animal, and then they wind up hiring me as their coach and their oracle. So it's animals are wiser than we even think, even though they're silly, goofy dogs, right? But horses, really wise. All cats, in Reiki.
My dogs know they're my best resource. Whenever it's like I had to close this door because if I'm on a podcast and we get emotional, I mean, they are all over me. I mean, they
I would have loved to have seen that. That'd be great. You saw my pupper. She's sitting here, my new foster fail. Her name is Lumiella, and she's sitting on my lap right now. So, but that's really my heart work, and working with the animals. And I have a new an online portal and program that is starting in October. It's virtual, where I'm teaching people how to remember who they are, and then how to heal themselves and animals through my galactic channeled program. Anyway, it's all online. I don't talk about it. If people are like interested, it's all there. And I have the thingy, and I have a wait list now that's open, and it was all channeled. It was all divinely channeled. It's like I don't have to think about what I'm doing anymore. I just ask my galactic team, and I say, where, what is next, right? What today? What am I doing? What I should record a podcast today. Great. What's the title? And it just flows. You know what I mean? Like I'm using that channel like you are. I know you're doing that, more and more, working with the right brain more than the left. And that's where all the power is. We've been told our greatest lie, and you mentioned it earlier, is that we were sold into that, the answers are outside of us. Right?
Oh yeah. Well, I saw something yesterday that like humans were programmed with this worship gene, which instead of looking inwards makes us
that's right
want to look outwards, and
that's sovereignty. That's sovereignty. The sovereignty is that, you know, I had a conversation recently with one of my older students, and she, oh, I see you're a soul coach, because, you know, I have this magnet on my car, and she could tell I knew she was pretty religious, and she started saying, well, where do you believe about God? And where, you know, where do you, so what do you know, and I asked her a question. I said, do you believe that God is in everything? And she said, yes. And I said, do you believe that God's in the trees and the flowers and the plants, including you? God is inside of you. She said, yes. And I said, exactly.
And that's great.
That was it. I'm not going to try to have her. And she just kind of looked at me, you know, and I was like, yeah, you're God, I'm God, we're God, goddess. I mean, I goddess, because, you know, we're talking about the, you know, the cosmic mother and the cosmic father, right? Both. It's both. So anyway, on that, I adore you. You're amazing. This was so special.
Absolutely. How do people find you? You mentioned your website.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the best way. I am all over the socials as my name, even though I did during my spiritual awakening, my soul name was revealed as Aurelia Serafina. So I do have that all over, but you know, everybody knows me as Victoria Haffer. That's fine. I'll always, you know, I go by Victoria, Queen Victoria, for, you know, some else. But it's nice to have had that remembrance of.
I think the last time we showed up and we were chatting, it was in COVID, and I called you Queen Victoria, and you're like, "That's my name." I'm like, last question. Do you work with local and online people? So people listen to this, they can reach out to your website.
Oh yeah, I get clients all over the world. I do very newly have a in-person office off of Six Forks in Raleigh. So yeah, I know it's new, a couple months now. It's really awesome. Well, I'm not. It has to be. I'm not there all the time. So you know, I'm not just like sitting there waiting for it. But you know, that's right. Come on in. Let's get you all activated.
Oh yeah. No, I've got a question for after this if you got a moment. But we just chat about that later. But thank you so much for hopping on. This conversation is everything that I thought it would be. And yeah, I want to do another podcast, and we could do the animal stuff. I'll bring my dog. What I see in my we can keep going, but I think my dogs represent both sides of me. The sympathetic version of me and the freezy version of me. And the freezy one is the one that's waking up just like I am. And it's really cool. So on that,
they're a complete mirror, and they all have their galactic side as well. You know, I do channel people's galactic family. I channel their soul name, and as well as anybody you have connected to you, to find out like what you were to them and in any of your parallel lives, including your animals. Yeah, that's cool. Isn't that cool?
Last comment, last closing thing from Victoria to anybody that's listening and been tuning into this. It can be what's like some closing advice you could give to someone that's interested in this kind of.
I just say, you know, this isn't a dress rehearsal, right? Like this is it. You don't get 9 lives like cats do. It's like this is your life, and what is holding you back, right? Like what are you waiting for, right? Fast forward to your deathbed. Did you do all the things? And if your heart or your soul is calling for something, it's just something you don't know what it is, then let's dance.
Amen. I love that. Victoria, thank you so much. You're the best.